bike and stuff.
Rejoice, everyone! It's time to talk about my 3 absolute favorite bands and Volbeat. The average dullard misjudges heavy metal music the same way that a monocleist Velma misjudges a left turn signal, rarely examining the music's themes and rationale for the taboo lyricism and occult images. The casual listener regularly avoids engaging with metal's artistic strengths, regarding the genre as similar to dropping one's trousers and unloading Panda Express and the garbage disposal. To be fair, I ran my garbage disposal last night and it sounded a lot like Machine Head's last album. However, what many folks in the mainstream don't get is how heavy metal concerts feel like a community gathering. It's as if there's a religious component to these massive gatherings of fans who are here to worship some of their favorite musicians as they preach their values and morals, giving the soul a place to belong. To the uninitiated, that admittedly may sound nonsensical, especially if you're uninebriated, but the fact remains that heavy metal shows, especially really good ones, are celebrations, and not of death either, but of life, and the fact that we're still here and we're still surviving all of life's various challenges and bullshit. I remember my first legit metal show when I saw Metallica in 2008 during their Death Magnetic tour, and aside from the great songs and their occasional dalliances off of Reload of all albums, I remember how James Hetfield, the rhythm guitarist and the lead vocalist for Metallica, FYI, he would always shout how wonderful it felt to be alive. At least in between yelling, "Yeah, yeah!
Yeah, yeah, yeah! Yeah, yeah! Metallica! Ooh!
And that really stuck with me. That feeling of how happy he was and how that kind of rubbed off on the crowd. Everyone in the crowd was just all smiles. We were all just having the time of our fucking lives. It was great. Despite the depressing subject matter about war, death, and addiction, the crowd was jubilant. The show had a Christmas morning sense of joy, like the ending scene of The Grinch, where all the Who's in Whoville all gathered around in the community Christmas tree square thingy, but instead of singing that dumb happy song, they sang One. This sense of community? This sense of community is one of the most important parts of a heavy metal show. It essentially differentiates the great shows from the, well, less than stellar shows. Whether it's a concert, tour, or a festival, a great heavy metal live performance needs to feel like a celebration, and the Knotfest Roadshow is no exception. For those who aren't in the know, Knotfest is an annual metal festival that started as a one-off event in 2012, but eventually coalesced into an annual festival in 2014 that's hosted by the mass Iowa 9-piece metal act Slipknot. Though here in the South, Slipknot is often referred to as Slipknot, or Slippin' Nuts, Slarpknot, Slipnips. The festival is usually hosted in San Bernardino, California, though there are other locations across the world. Knotfest Mexico and Knotfest Japan are a few. I'm personally hoping for a Knotfest Isengard pretty soon. The purpose of the festival was to be a cultural gathering, similar to that of the Juggalos, but with the admittedly better music palette. This year, however, Slipknot decided to take their American leg of Knotfest on the road in order to support their 6th album, We Are Not Your Kind, which for the record is a fantastic album, an easy shoo-in. I touched my hair. An easy album of the year contender. I love it, even though if you silence the Y, the acronym spells wank. Just saying. So in order to promote that excellent album, Wank, here we have the Knotfest Roadshow tearing up cities across America with stellar supporting acts like Behemoth, Gojira, and a lengthy intermission. Kidding aside, Volbeat, Gojira, and Behemoth are very talented bands. Behemoth will pummel you with occult imagery and brutal vocals. Gojira will pound you with a Forcious? That was in the script? Gojira will pound you with a ferocious live performance, and Volbeat is the most mainstream. And with Knotfest, they now have the capacity to reach more people, and thus have the opportunity to expand their fan bases exponentially. And with those, as I said, 3 favorite bands and Volbeat, I was really curious to see how Slipknot would take their sense of community and that kind of little metal church style of festival and take it on an afternoon style of road tour. Thankfully, the answer is that they did it very well, though this feeling didn't entirely coalesce together until Slipknot played. And before we talk about the mighty Slipknot, let's talk about the openers. The Polish metal band Behemoth started with a literal bang, and they were just fan-fucking-tastic. They played their hits, well, closest things to hits, really, because they are a blackened death metal band. They played Conquer All from the Demigod album, Chant of Eschaton, and of course the heavy as all fuck Ora Pro Nobis Lucifer. Not to be confused with Anal Probe Lucifer. The guitar riffs sounded great, and everything was just on point for the show, and the crowd was pretty well into it, even though they were the opening act. With that said, though, you can kind of tell that Behemoth knew they had a chance to win over new converts, though not necessarily to Satanism, but more to their music, because they played 3 songs from their 2018 album, I Loved You at Your Darkest, which, let me state, is a great record. But it also has some of their most accessible songs due to the more dynamic vocals on tracks like Barzabel and Sabbath Matter. Still very good, but you can tell that they wanted to focus on kind of the new stuff in order to get new ears attuned to their sound, while playing a few very popular songs from their back catalog in order to appease old fans. Sadly, no At the Left Hand of God and no Of Fire and the Void, which is a bummer to me. I love A Fire and the Void. That fucking guitar riff just fucking melts my fucking face. Fucking. And also only 1 song from The Satanist, which is disappointing because The Satanist is, well, it's one of the best metal albums of this decade, so I would have liked to have heard more from it. Understandably, sacrifices had to be made, but given the specific spirituality of the band, I was hoping for a different type of sacrifice, to be honest. French metal titans Gojira continued where Behemoth left off, and in true Gojira fashion, they pulverized the venue with pure live energy. Even without an extensive light show or stage theatrics that their contemporaries have, Gojira came to play their music with incredible skill and energy. As always, they were great, though like Behemoth, they played 3 tracks from their most recent and accessible album, i.e. in Gojira's case, 2016's Magma, along with some of their hits like Backbone, Flying Whales, Gift of Guilt, Toxic Garbage Island, and a rare one from their debut album, of all things. As always, Gojira were brilliant. They're always great live. They always bring the energy. Their bassist is always into it. Their drummer, oh my fucking god, their drummer is amazing. They brought their trademark sense of energy, just wowing the crowd with their musical craft. And they even helped the crowd practice mindfulness along with their eco-friendly heavy metal. Because why the fuck not? Though I wish Gojira would have played some of their other great hits, like Heaviest Matter of the Universe, Art of Dying, or Explosia, but I understand that the band, like Behemoth, wanted to play stuff from their more recent successful, accessible, and accolade-winning record. Which is fine. Magma is great. Tracks like Silvera, Stranded, and The Gift of Guilt, that's not from that album. Tracks like Silvera, Stranded, and The Cell, especially The Cell, because you get to see Mario Duplantier's drum work, and it's like, he just makes it look so fucking easy. He's like the fucking, he's like, not even an octopus with all 8 tentacles holding drumsticks would not compare to Mario Duplantier's drumming. He is a badass. He just makes it look so easy. So with that said, Gojira did play their set to perfection. And, and if their goal was to make new fans in the process of this tour, well, mission fucking accomplished. Because I heard lots of people say sentences or murmur stuff along the lines of, I had never heard of this band before, but they good! So, mission accomplished on that. They're probably making lots of new fans on this tour. Truly excellent. And following that up was Volbeat, which were fine. It was fine. It was okay. Admittedly, this southern crowd ate up Denmark's finest rockabilly group that dabbed a little bit into heavy metal territory. I personally would have preferred Gojira in the slot before Slipknot. Would have loved to hear more songs from them, obviously. And they were fine. Their music is sound. I enjoy Volbeat in certain settings, though admittedly not in the Knotfest setting, because following up such talented and energetic acts like Behemoth and Gojira just made me want to sit out Volbeat's overly long 12-song set that doesn't really make much sense with the heavier lineup. I mean, think about it. We went from this to this. Fucking what? Thankfully, Volbeat weren't headlining, but Slipknot was. And Slipknot took their mayhemic act onto the Alpharetta stage, where they played a lot of their greatest hits like Before I Forget, Duality, Wait and Bleed, The Devil and I, Psychosocial, Heretic Anthem, People Equals Shit, Surfacing, Spit It Out, Sulfur, Vermilion, and Sick, along with new songs and eventual classics like Unsainted, Solway Firth, and All Out Light. The Des Moines band of 9 metal maniacs brought their trademark energetic live performances with a burning baseball bat, beer keg drums, and 2 treadmills, I guess? Gotta get those 10,000 steps somehow. And they pulled off a show that was devastating both in terms of theatricality and performance. Obviously. However, what really pulled the show together was how well Slipknot worked the crowd. Heavy metal shows are gatherings of like-minded individuals having a good time, enjoying music that is generally deemed taboo. And the maestros in Slipknot were more than aware of this. Lead vocalist Corey Taylor regularly amped up the crowd, essentially preaching to the fans about how metal doesn't discriminate against race, sex, gender, or sexual orientation, and that we are basically a family. He noted his speeches were schmaltzy, but he also said they were true. And they are! It's very true. Taylor may not have uttered the phrase metal church, but essentially the Knotfest Roadshow was a touring metal church. And combine that feeling with all the other bands they brought with them to keep the spirit of heavy metal alive around the world, the Knotfest Roadshow is probably the North American metal tour to see this year, even if you're not a fan of Volbeat. Whether you've been with Slipknot or with the genre for 20 or more years, or even just 20 days, the live energy that the band and the crowd feed off of is just too infectious to ignore. This was true of Metallica when I saw them over 10 years ago, and it's definitely true with Slipknot and their traveling menagerie of heavy metal acts. I loved every second of it, and just hearing everyone shout, "If you're 555, I'm 666," was just everything I wanted it to be.